Welcome back to the deep dive. We have got something a little bit, well, it's different today.
It really is.
Usually we're looking at optimization, right? How to get
Yeah.
10% more efficient,
Yeah.
how to organize your nation, or, how to be a better employee, the usual stuff.
Right. The standard self-improvement playbook, do more, be better, smile wider, all of that.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
today, we are stripping all of that away. We're not talking about thriving. We're not talking about getting organized. We are talking about pure, unadulterated survival. We're looking at a set of documents that, I can only describe as a war manual for the modern workplace.
That's a good way to put it, a war manual.
Yeah.
I've read a lot of career advice in my time, but
Yeah.
this is gritty. It's
Ah.
arguably a little Machiavellian.
Little.
Okay, maybe a lot.
Yeah.
But it's designed for a very specific, very high-pressure situation that I think a lot of people are going to recognize in their gut.
It feels like it was written in a bunker. And the core theme here is navigating what the source calls a VUCA world.
VUCA.
Yeah. Now, I've heard this acronym thrown around at corporate retreats, usually right before, a trust fall exercise or some catered lunch. But in this context, it feels heavy.
It does. VUCA. Volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. And you're right, usually it is just a slide in a PowerPoint. It's corporate buzzword bingo.
Right.
But the source we're analyzing today positions VUCA not as a concept to be managed, but as the hostile environment you live in. It implies that the baseline reality of your actual Tuesday morning is chaos.
It's the default state.
It's the default state. It's the environment where plans fall apart, technology shifts overnight, and job security is.
Well, it's a polite fiction.
And to ground this, because this can get very abstract very fast, we're looking at a specific case study that sparked this whole deep dive. We have a listener, let's call him the developer, who is in a classic, terrifying bind. He feels trapped.
It's the adapt or die scenario, but with a nasty catch, a
What?
real catch-22.
So here's the setup. He's in a job that demands like 110% of his time just to keep the lights on.
We've all been there. Maintaining legacy systems, fighting fires, dealing with an endless stream of tickets. But he knows, he's seen the writing on the wall, that if he does not learn a new skill, specifically this SAP CDS technology, he's going to become a dinosaur.
Right. He becomes obsolete, the market moves on, and he's left holding the bag for a dead technology. He's a COBOL programmer in a Python world.
But here's the catch-22, the
Yeah.
real trap. If he takes time off work, lets things slide a little so he can study this new skill, he might get fired for poor performance right now.
And that's what the source calls the ruin state, the absorbing barrier.
The ruined state. We'll get into that. But if he doesn't learn the skill, he just keeps his head down and does his job perfectly.
He eventually becomes useless and loses the job anyway. Maybe in a year, maybe two, but it's coming.
It feels like a no-win scenario, and that's where most people just freeze up. They try to find balance. They try to squeeze in 30 minutes of learning here and there, during lunch, while still trying to be the perfect employee.
And our source material today comes in with a sledgehammer and says, stop. Balance is a lie.
Balance is for people who aren't drowning. That was the quote that just, it got me.
Exactly. The source argues that what you need isn't balance, it is strategic asymmetry.
I love that term, strategic asymmetry. It sounds like something from The Art of War.
It feels like it.
So our mission today is to unpack this manual. It's a 3-part document that covers strategy, tactics, and infrastructure. And I have to say, the tone, it is enthusiastic about being absolutely ruthless with your time. It's slightly rebellious.
It dismantles the morality we attach to being a good employee. It asks you to look at your career not as a ladder of merit, but as a system of probabilities. And if you play the game wrong,
You don't just lose a turn.
you lose the game. You're out.
Okay, let's get into it. Section 1 is all about dismantling the fallacy of balance. And it starts with the concept that, I'll be honest, it made my brain hurt a little bit at first, but I think it is absolutely crucial. Non-ergodicity.
Yes. This is the foundation. If you do not get this, the rest of the advice sounds like, well, it sounds like madness.
So break it down for us. Ergodic versus non-ergodic.
Yeah.
Because when I hear ergodic, I think of, physics, not my job.
Okay, think of a coin toss. Let's say we bet $1 on a coin toss and you lose.
I'm at $1.
You're out $1.
Yeah.
But you can play again. If you play 1,000 times, the wins and losses tend to average out. You see the true probability. That system is ergodic.
Because the past doesn't prevent the future, I can always play again.
Precisely. The history doesn't really matter. As long as you have chips, you can always keep playing. Your average outcome over time is what matters.
Okay, so casinos are ergodic, assuming I don't run out of money.
Exactly, assuming you don't run out of money. But your career or your life is non-ergodic. It has what the source calls an absorbing barrier.
And that is the ruin state.
That's the ruin state, getting fired. Total financial ruin. Think of it like this. If you play Russian roulette once and survive, the average outcome is pretty good, right?
Right.
5 out of 6 times you're fine. But the ensemble average, if 6 people play, is that one of them is gone forever.
And you can't average those two.
You can't. The person who's gone is gone. They can't play again. So if you take a risk, say, ignoring your boss completely to study code, and that risk leads to you hitting that absorbing barrier,
You get fired.
you cannot simply toss the coin again. You're out of the game. You've lost your income, your stability, your platform to launch from.
Game over.
Game over. And the source argues that you cannot, under any circumstances, trade survival for upside if the upside requires survival. It's irrational.
It sounds so obvious when you say it like that. Why would I risk a 99% chance of getting fired to learn a skill I can only use if I have a job?
Because we're not wired to think this way. We think in averages. We think, oh, I'll just work really hard on this side project. My boss will probably understand if I miss a few deadlines. We don't think about the small probability of total ruin.
So the strategy isn't risk it all. It's not a Jerry Maguire moment, walking out with the goldfish.
Absolutely not. The strategy is minimax regret. Minimize your maximum regret.
Okay, unpack that.
Your maximum regret isn't, I didn't learn the skill fast enough. Your maximum regret is, I got fired and now I can't pay my rent. So the algorithm is, you want to maximize the probability of learning the new skill, the SAP CDS project in this case, subject to the constraint of keeping the probability of job loss below a certain very low threshold.
It's a balancing act on a knife's edge.
It's a constrained optimization problem.
Yeah.
You're pushing the envelope right up to the edge of the cliff, but not 1 inch further.
Which brings us to this incredible concept the source introduces. Minimum viable employment, or MVE.
MV.
We talk about MVP, minimum viable product, in the startup world all the time. Just building enough to ship to see if it works. This is applying that exact logic to your own employment contract.
It completely shifts your mental model. Most of us, especially high performers, the people who listen to shows like this, we view a job as work to be done well.
Right. We want an A+. We want the pat on the head. We want to be seen as reliable, as indispensable.
And this source says, stop that. That is a luxury you cannot afford right now. You need to view the job as rent to be paid.
Rent to be paid. That is so cold.
It is cold, but it's necessary for this specific survival phase. The source highlights what it calls the gap. The difference between excellence, which takes 100% of your energy, and safety, which might only take 40 to 60%.
Yeah, 40 to 60%. Is that realistic?
Think about it. Is every single thing you do at work mission critical? Or do you spend hours formatting a PowerPoint that no one reads, or sitting in a meeting you could have skipped? The source argues that for most knowledge workers, the actual effort required to not get fired is far lower than the effort required to be seen as a star.
And the argument is that the gap between that 60% and 100% is where you steal the time.
You have to. It's not optional. If you are operating at 100% capacity for your employer, you have 0% capacity for your own future. You are eating your seed corn. You have to lower your output to the exact point where you are safe, but no higher.
But how do you find that point without, miscalculating and falling off the cliff? If I just stop working, I am going to hit that ruin state we talked about. I'm going to get fired.
And that is where the O-ring theory of career risk comes in. This is a fascinating analogy, a really powerful one, drawn from the Challenger space shuttle disaster.
Right, the O-ring. I remember this, a tiny little rubber seal that failed in the cold weather and caused that massive tragedy.
Exactly. The shuttle had millions of parts that worked perfectly. The engines were fine, the guidance systems were fine, the heat shields were fine. But one cheap, seemingly insignificant seal failed, and the whole system exploded.
Okay, so how does that apply to my job?
The source argues that in your job, there are dozens of tasks you do every week. Answering emails, attending meetings, formatting slides, checking Slack, writing documentation, millions of parts. But there's usually only one, maybe two, O-ring tasks.
The one thing that, if it breaks, causes the explosion.
It's the task that, if you miss it, you get fired. No questions asked. Maybe it's showing up to the daily stand-up meeting and giving a coherent update. Maybe it's sending that one specific weekly report the VP actually reads. Or for a support person, it might be responding to a client outage within 30 minutes.
And the implication is?
If you do that one O-ring thing perfectly, you survive. The source says you can slack off on 10 other silent tasks, things that nobody really checks or they can wait, and nothing happens. No explosion. You survive to fight another day.
So the strategy is identify the O-ring, polish it until it shines. Make that your #1 priority.
Yes.
And let the other stuff, just slide into the abyss?
Well, not necessarily the abyss. You manage it, you delay it, but you don't give it your prime energy. You have to brutally categorize your work into loud tasks versus silent tasks. Perfect the loud ones, let the silent ones slip.
Yeah.
That is how you buy the 4 hours a day you need to learn.
It is terrifying, but it makes a dark kind of sense. You're essentially acting like a triage nurse for your own workload. You're deciding which patients, which tasks can be left in the waiting room because they're not going to die.
And you're managing the perception of work rather than the work itself. You're optimizing for optics so you can optimize for your own reality in the background.
Okay, so we have the strategy. We know we need to slack off strategically by focusing on these O-rings. But we live in a dynamic world. Things change every day. A new fire starts. The boss is in a bad mood. How do we navigate that?
That's where the source introduces a navigation system. And it's based on the OODA loop.
The OODA loop. I've heard of this. Observe, orient, decide, act.
Exactly. This comes from Colonel John Boyd, a legendary fighter pilot. He developed it for air combat, where things happen at supersonic speeds. Hesitation is death.
And the source is saying your workplace is basically a combat zone.
In a VUCA environment, it is. Static plans like, I will study 2 hours every night at 8 p.m., fail because, as the saying goes, the enemy gets a vote.
The enemy being your boss, the market, or the server crashing at 4:59 p.m.
Exactly. So your plan has to be dynamic. It has to be a loop, not a straight line.
So let's walk through this loop in the context of our developer. Phase 1, observe.
Observe is about signal versus noise. This is absolutely critical. You want to learn this new skill, SAP CDS, for a new project.
Yeah.
But is the project real?
What do you mean, is it real?
Is it funded? Is it staffed? Is it just an idea someone had in a meeting? The source calls this a probability cloud. You have to figure out if it's a certainty or just a vague possibility. It warns heavily against learning for a phantom project.
Oh, I have absolutely been there. You hear rumor, hey, we might do this big AI initiative next year. And you spend 6 months of your nights and weekends prepping, learning Python libraries, getting ready.
And then budget cuts happen and it just vanishes. Puff.
Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah.
All that effort wasted.
So the action here is intelligence gathering. Don't guess. Verify. Talk to people. Ask pointed questions. Is the budget approved? Is there a hiring freeze on that team? You need to observe the corporate reality before you commit your most scarce resource, your time and energy.
And once you've observed that the project is real, you move to phase 2.
Yeah.
Orient. This source calls this the Pareto pivot.
The 80-20 rule again.
Exactly. This connects back to the O-ring idea, but for learning.
Yeah.
You realize you can't learn everything about SAP CDS. It's a massive technology. It would take years.
So you orient yourself toward the critical 20%.
You orient yourself to learn only what is needed to survive day one on that new project. You have to filter the syllabus. You don't need to be an expert. You just need to be not useless on your first day. That's the bar.
We'll get into the specifics of what that syllabus looks like in the tactics section. But this leads to phase 3, which I think is the most practical and honestly the most difficult for people to actually do. Decide. The binary fork.
This addresses the fatal mistake of multitasking, of trying to do 2 things at once.
The source says you must toggle completely between 2 modes. Mode A is employee of the month.
And when do you use that?
You use that when what the source calls boss stress, denoted as S sub B, which I love, or urgency is high.
So if the boss is breathing down your neck or there's a critical production bug.
You drop everything else. You do 0 study. You put on your superhero cape. You fight the fire. You save the day. You become the most dedicated employee in the company for that period.
Why?
You're resetting the survival clock. You're buying goodwill. You're reinforcing the idea that you're reliable, which gives you cover for the times when you're not.
Okay, so that's mode A. What's mode B?
Mode B is ghost protocol.
I like that.
When stress is low, when the boss is on vacation, when things are quiet, you do the absolute bare minimum at work, just the O-ring tasks. And you focus 80% of your mental energy on learning. You become a ghost in the corporate machine.
And the key here is the toggle, right? The binary nature of it. You cannot be in the middle.
The middle is death. The source is so clear on this. If you try to study some complex code while you're worrying about an email you need to send, you learn nothing and you write a bad email.
You pay the switching cost twice. Your brain can't do both.
You have to be binary. Switch the context fully. For the next 2 hours, I am only an employee. Then for the next 4 hours, I am only a student. No overlap.
And finally, that leads to phase 4, ACT. The source calls it violent execution.
I love that phrasing, violent execution. It's so intense.
It means when you are in mode B, when you're in Ghost Protocol, you aren't passively watching YouTube tutorials at 1.5x speed while eating chips.
Which is what most people, myself included, call studying.
Right. It's the illusion of learning. Violent execution means you are building, you are coding, you are breaking things, and then figuring out how to fix them. It's high intensity. You are attacking the material, not just letting it wash over you.
Okay, that makes sense. So this loop observe, orient, decide, act, it's not a one-time thing. You're running this loop every single day.
Every morning, you wake up, you observe the environment. Is today a mode A day or a mode B day? You orient your learning goals, you decide on your mode, and then you act with intensity. That's how you navigate the chaos.
Let's move to section 3, tactical execution. This is the kill chain for learning, the real nitty-gritty.
The how-to.
Now, the source is very specific about SAP CDS, and I want to pause here. For our listeners who aren't developers, CDS stands for Core Data Services. Think of it as the new, modern engine for SAP systems, which run most of the world's biggest companies.
It's a big deal.
It is. But even if you aren't a coder, listen to the method of learning here, because you can apply this logic to learning anything complex, whether it's financial modeling, a new marketing platform, or even a new language.
It's the application of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, to a technical syllabus. The source calls it the survival stack. What is the absolute minimum you need to know to be effective?
So for this specific tech, for SAP CDS, what does it say to master, and what does it say to ignore? Because technical documentation is usually thousands of pages long. It's overwhelming.
It cuts right through the bloat. It says you master 4 things. That's it. 4.
Okay, what's number 1?
First, the VDM hierarchy. That stands for Virtual Data Model. It's basically understanding the layers of views. The source uses a cake analogy. If you don't understand the base layer, the composite layer, and the consumption layer, the frosting doesn't matter.
So it's the architecture, the blueprint.
It's the architectural blueprint. If you know that, you know where everything lives. You can talk intelligently about the structure without even knowing the details.
Okay, pillar number 1. VDM hierarchy. What's number 2?
Number 2 is associations. And the source makes a really big deal about this. It has a whole section titled, Joins Are Dead.
For the non-techies listening, a join-ine is how we used to, stick 2 spreadsheets of data together. Like, here are my customers, here are their orders, let's join them on the customer ID.
Right. And it was slow and clunky, and you had to redefine it every single time. Associations are like pre-built GPS routes between your data tables. The source says if you master associations, you look like a senior architect. If you still use joins, you look like a junior who just finished a boot camp.
So it's a signal of competence.
A huge signal of competence.
And the third pillar of the survival stack.
Annotations.
The source had a funny note about annotations. It called them UI magic, the magic that managers see.
And that is pure human psychology at play, right? Annotations are little lines of code that don't change the data, but they tell the system how to display the data. Make this a column, make that a chart, make this field searchable.
And why is that so important?
Because the source says, managers love visual results. If you write the most complex, brilliant back-end code in the world, but the screen is blank, you have failed in their eyes. If you write simple code but a button appears on the screen, you are a wizard.
That is such a cynical but brutally accurate take on corporate life. Visuals win.
Always. So you have to focus on what is visible to the people who sign your paycheck. That's the annotations.
Okay, so we have the architecture, the data linking, and the visual magic. What's the fourth and final pillar?
Oh, data exposure? This is a bit technical, but it's basically how you turn your code into an API that other apps can talk to. It's the handshake with the rest of the world. Without it, your code is just stuck in a box. With it, it's a useful service.
And what do we ignore? What's the 80% we're supposed to just throw away?
Everything else. Legacy dictionary views, complex SQL joins, heavy application frameworks like BOPF. The source is absolutely brutal here. If it doesn't help you survive day one, it doesn't exist. Delete it from your mind. It's noise, not signal.
This ruthless focus is intense. The source also gives a very specific directive regarding learning materials. Stop watching videos.
Yes.
And instead, build the Zero to Hero project.
This is all about active versus passive learning. Passive learning is the enemy of real competence. It creates the illusion of competence.
Please explain that.
You watch a video tutorial, the instructor is coding, everything is working, and you're nodding along thinking, yeah, I get it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then you open a blank editor and try to type it yourself, and your mind is completely blank.
The knowledge isn't in your fingers.
It's not in your nervous system. You haven't struggled. You haven't made the typos and fixed them. You haven't really learned it. So what's the fix?
The source says you must build one thing repeatedly until you can do it from memory. For SAP, the example is a sales order report. A classic.
A classic. Build the view, link the data tables, add the annotations, expose it as an API, then delete the whole thing.
And do it again.
And do it again and again until it becomes muscle memory, like a musician learning scales or a chef practicing knife cuts. You don't learn by watching someone else play. You have to put your fingers on the keys until the pattern is burned into your nervous system.
Now, this leads into a broader strategic concept in the document called the barbell strategy. We touched on this with the binary fork, but this takes it further. It has two sides. Side one is extreme safety.
This is your shield. This is how you stay employed while you're in Ghost Protocol. You make yourself uncuttable at your current job.
But not by working hard.
No, that's the key. Not by taking on more work, but by integrating socially, being the person everyone likes, or, more cynically, by holding critical legacy knowledge. You become the only person who understands that messy old system that the company still relies on.
The information silo, we'll definitely talk more about that in the dark arts section, so you're safe. What's the other side of the barbell?
Side two is extreme risk. This is the spear.
So while you're playing it safe at work,
In your learning, you swing for the fences. You don't just learn syntax from a book, you build a proof of concept, a POC.
and this is a brilliant psychological trick. The source suggests building a POC that is relevant to your current company using the new technology you're learning.
Right. So imagine this scenario. You're in Ghost Protocol. You've been slacking on your silent tasks. You get caught. Your boss calls you into their office. It looks bad.
This is the moment of truth.
Instead of folding and apologizing, you pull out this proof of concept you've been building and you say, I wasn't slacking. I was doing strategic R&D. I took the initiative to build a prototype of how we can solve our sales reporting problem using the new CDS views.
Wow. You completely reframe not working as innovation.
You convert the risk of slacking off
Yeah.
into the asset of strategic initiative. It turns a potential firing offense into a potential promotion opportunity. That is strategic asymmetry. You're betting that your defense, your extreme safety, will work. But if it doesn't, your offense, the POC, is your ace in the hole.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the day-to-day. Section 4, the daily algorithm. Because, let's be real, all this strategy is great, but willpower runs out. You can't just decide to work hard at 5 a.m. You need a schedule, a system.
The source is very clear on this. You need to run an algorithm, not rely on motivation. It proposes a pay-yourself-first protocol, and it starts early, very early.
The golden zone is 05:05:00 to 07:000 a.m.
5 to 7 in the morning.
Oh man, the 5 a.m. club. I know people just hate hearing this advice. They groan. Why does the source insist on it? Why can't I just study at night after work?
The source calls those the vampire hours. Think about your state of mind at 7 or 8 p.m. If you've worked a full 9 to 5, you are drained, your decision fatigue is through the roof, the day has stolen your best energy.
True.
If you try to learn complex cloud architecture at that point, it just won't stick. You'll reread the same paragraph 5 times, you'll get distracted by your phone. It's low quality time.
So you steal the time from the morning before the day can steal it from you.
You bank the win. That's the key phrase. If you get 2 solid hours of deep learning in from 5 to 7, you have already succeeded for the day. Even if you go to work at 9 and the whole place is on fire, you get nothing else done, you learned for 2 hours. Nobody can take that away from you. You have paid yourself first.
And the rules for this golden zone? No phone, no email.
0. It's sacred time. Pure learning. Then the day begins. From 09:00 to 11:00 a.m., you enter the O-ring zone.
This is where you put on the corporate mask.
Yes, this is high visibility time. You attack your O-ring tasks, you send the emails, you post updates in Slack. You create the illusion of massive output early in the day so people leave you alone later.
It's a perception hack. If you send 3 important-sounding emails at 9:05 a.m., people just assume you're on fire all morning.
They do. Their mental model of you for the day is set. Oh, he's busy. He's on top of things.
And then comes the afternoon, the dreaded post-lunch dip. The source calls it the zombie zone. 1300 to 1600.
Your biology takes over. Your glucose levels are fluctuating. This is not the time to try and write complex code or learn a new concept. The source says, do not attempt deep work here.
So what do? Just stare at the wall?
You do the low brain power stuff. Attend meetings on mute while you clean up your code. Format documents. Answer simple emails. The rule is, do not waste high-quality energy on low-quality tasks, and do not try to use low-quality energy for high-quality learning. Match the task to your energy level.
And finally, at the end of the day, there's the closer at 5 p.m.
This is another perception hack. Before you log off, send a summary email to your boss or your team. Just closing the loop on X, making progress on Y, will pick up Z tomorrow.
It creates a paper trail.
A paper trail of competence. It frames their last impression of you for the day. You're organized. You're communicative. Even if you spent 3 hours in the zombie zone doing nothing, this email makes you look like you had a productive day.
The source also gets really deep into biohacking. I was surprised to see diet and sleep advice in what is essentially a coding survival manual, but it insists that your biological hardware is part of the system.
It makes total sense. You're asking your brain to run 2 operating systems at once, your old job and your new learning. That requires a massive amount of energy. If your hardware is glitchy, your software won't run. You need to fuel it properly.
So let's talk about glucose coding.
This is all about avoiding the carb crash. We've all felt it. You eat a big bowl of pasta or a sandwich for lunch, and at 2 p.m. you feel like you need a nap. Your insulin spikes, then crashes, and you get brain fog.
You lose 2 hours of productivity.
Easily. So the source suggests a radical diet shift. Fasting or pure fats like MCT oil or just black coffee in the morning. This keeps you in a state of ketosis, which is great for mental clarity. Then a high-protein, low-carb lunch. And you save your carbs for dinner.
Watch.
Because carbs help produce serotonin, which helps you relax and sleep. You use the food to sync with your daily goals. Fats for focus, protein for sustained energy, carbs for sleep.
And the caffeine deployment strategy. This is very strict.
A hard cutoff at 12 p.m. noon.
Noon? That's so early. I mean, my 3 p.m. latte is a sacred ritual.
And the source would argue that's why you might feel tired the next morning. It explains the science. Caffeine has a half-life of about 6 hours. So if you drink a coffee at 4 p.m., half of that caffeine is still swirling around in your brain at 10 p.m.
And that messes up your sleep.
It destroys your deep sleep. And deep sleep is where memory consolidation happens. If you don't get proper deep sleep, you didn't actually learn those CDS views you studied at 5 a.m., you just wasted your time. Your brain didn't file the information away.
So the caffeine cutoff isn't about falling asleep, it's about the quality of sleep.
Precisely. And then there's NSDR, non-sleep deep rest.
I've heard Andrew Huberman talk about this.
It's a 20-minute reset in the afternoon. You lie down, you listen to a guided meditation or yoga nidra script. It's been shown to reset dopamine levels. It's like a system reboot for your brain to get you through that final stretch of the day without reaching for more caffeine.
Okay, we have arrived at my favorite part of the document. Section 5, Crisis Management and Corporate Camouflage. This is where the manual gets really fun and a little dark. It calls these the dark arts of survival.
These are the tactics for when things go wrong. Because they will. Your ghost protocol will be discovered. You will miss a deadline. Someone will ask why you are being so slow.
So the first tactic is called the script. And rule number 1 is never apologize.
Apologizing admits guilt. It puts you in a subordinate position. Instead, the source says you must reframe.
Give me the example from the document. The boss comes over to your desk and asks, why is this taking so long? What do you say?
You don't say, oh, sorry, I was distracted or I'm overwhelmed. You look them in the eye and you say, that's a great question. While I was working on it, I found a major data inconsistency in the legacy logic. I'm refactoring it now so it doesn't break production later. Do you want a quick risky patch or do you want the proper stable fix?
Oh, that is just brilliant. You make it sound like you care more about quality than they do.
You frame your slowness as conscientiousness. You've turned their accusation into a choice that they have to make. You force them to choose between fast and risky or slow and safe. And 99% of managers will choose safe, which buys you more time.
You've seized control of the narrative. Okay, next, dark art, the decoy maneuver.
This is for when you know you're going to miss a major deadline. The rule is never deliver nothing. Silence is guilt.
So what do you deliver?
You deliver a small, visible decoy, a cleanup of a related spreadsheet, a well-written summary email of your progress so far, something tangible that says, I am working on this, I am engaged. It buys you another 24 hours. It resets the Where is he? Clock in your manager's head.
And the gray rock method. This is for dealing with toxic, micromanaging bosses.
If your manager thrives on drama or emotional reactions, you must become uninteresting. You become a gray rock on the side of the road.
How does that look in practice?
You give short, factual, monotone answers. What's the status? I am working on it. When will it be done? It'll be done at 4 p.m. You don't engage emotionally. You don't get flustered. You don't give them long stories. If you starve them of the drama they feed on, they get bored and go look for a victim somewhere else.
That is just useful advice for life, honestly. Now, the information silo. This goes back to that barbell strategy, making yourself uncuttable.
It is the dark art of deliberately hoarding knowledge. Find a messy, critical legacy process that everyone hates, but the company depends on.
Every company has one of these.
Every single one. Learn how to fix it when it breaks. Become the go-to person for it. But, and this is the key, do not document your fix.
Keep it in your head.
Keep it in your head. So if they think about firing you, the first question in the room is, wait, who's going to handle the billing reconciliation process if he's gone? It creates just enough friction. Being painful to fire is a valid survival strategy in a ruthless environment. It's not nice.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about being nice. We're talking about survival.
And the last one in this section, the reply all shield.
This is simple but effective corporate CYA. Always copy stakeholders on delivered work. If you deliver a project only to your direct boss, he can bury it, claim it was late, or take credit for it.
But if you copy the client or the project manager...
There are witnesses.
Yeah.
There's a timestamp. It protects you. It creates a distributed public ledger of your work. Your boss can't claim you did nothing if 3 other people saw the email saying it was done.
Moving on to the final section. Section 6, building the infrastructure. This is about using tools and systems to accelerate this whole process. It starts with AI acceleration, but not in the way most people think, not ChatGPT, write my code.
No, that's a trap. That doesn't teach you anything. The source suggests using AI as a Socratic tutor.
A what?
You give the AI a role.
You prompt it.
You are a senior SAP architect. I am a junior developer. Ask me difficult interview questions about associations until I can answer them perfectly.
So you're having conversation with it.
You're forcing active recall. It's 1,000 times more effective for learning than just reading. The AI interrogates you, finds the gaps in your knowledge, and helps you fill them. It's like having a personal mentor available 24/7.
The document also suggests using AI to generate dummy data. Why is that a big deal?
Because you cannot test code without realistic data. And getting that data is often a huge pain. You can just tell the AI, generate 50 rows of SQL inserts for a sales order table with realistic-looking customer names and product IDs, and boom, you have a sandbox to play in. You can simulate the real world without touching the company's live production servers.
That's smart. Then there is the shadow portfolio. This addresses that classic problem of, I learned it, but I have no experience on my resume.
You have to manufacture synthetic experience. You can't wait for someone to give it to you.
And the source has a great name for this. Your local host empire.
Build enterprise clones on your personal GitHub account. Don't build another to-do list app. Everyone has a to-do list app on their portfolio.
So what do you build?
You build a logistics tracking system. You build a warehouse management dashboard. You build a financial reconciliation tool. Even if it's fake and only uses dummy data, it looks real. It uses the language of business. It shows you can solve enterprise-grade problems.
And the Stack Overflow parasite.
This is brilliant. Go to forums like Stack Overflow, where people are posting about real, complex, messy errors they're facing in production, and try to solve them.
Even if you can't post the answer.
Even if you never post anything. Just by exposing yourself to the types of errors that happen in the real world, you become infinitely more valuable than someone who just followed a clean tutorial where everything went perfectly. You've seen what breaks.
This all builds toward the financial side of things. Financial hardening, starting with the FU fund.
Because money is courage. Money is options. You need to calculate your survival number. That's your monthly rent, plus a budget for ramen noodles. Nothing else.
And once you have that number,
you start a wartime budget. You cut everything non-essential. Netflix, dining out, new clothes. The source says every $100 you save is a freedom unit. It buys you another day or week of time to study if the worst happens and you get fired.
It's a mentality shift. You aren't saving money. You are buying freedom.
Exactly. And the source says when you have 6 months of expenses in the bank, you walk into an interview differently. You don't smell of fear and desperation. You smell of options. And companies want to hire people who have options.
Finally, after all this work, you get the interview, winning the exit.
It suggests using the consultative technique. Don't just answer questions like a student taking a test.
What does that mean?
It means you discuss trade-offs. If they ask you about a technology, say, well, I use Fiori Elements for simple list-based apps because it's fast, but for applications with complex logic, I prefer a freestyle approach because it gives more control. That sounds like a senior developer, not a junior. You're framing yourself as a peer.
And the failure story.
Every interviewer asks, tell me about a time you failed. You need a story ready? And the perfect story is one where you admit a technical failure that shows you've already learned the exact lesson they need you to know.
Give me an example.
In a previous project, I used to try to do all the data processing in the app layer. It worked, but I learned that it put too much strain on the database. So now, my philosophy is to push as much logic down to the database as possible. It's a humble brag that proves deep competence.
This brings us to the end. The outro of the source material. The final truth of this whole deep dive.
And it's the realization that this system, it's not just about learning to code. It is a total mobilization of your entire life. Your biology, your psychology, your finances, your time.
You are the startup of one.
You are. And your current employer is just your first venture capitalist. They are funding your R&D. And if they pull that funding, if they fire you, your product, which is your new skills, must be ready to take to the next investor.
That is such a powerful way to reframe your entire career. You are not an employee. You are a business of one.
And businesses of one don't look for work-life balance when they're in a survival phase. They look for survival, and then they look for growth.
So the final call to action from the source is incredibly simple and direct. It says, do not plan anymore. Do not think anymore. Set the alarm for 5 a.m.
And write one view. Build one thing. Break the paralysis of overthinking with action.
It is extreme advice. It's a hard path. But for a VUCA world, for the kind of trap our listener is in, maybe extreme is what's necessary. Thank you for walking us through this war manual.
My pleasure. Stay safe out there in the trenches.
And to our listener and to everyone else feeling that same pressure, good luck. We will see you in the next deep dive.